Here's an experiment for you. Take passionate experts in human resource technology. Invite cross-industry experts from inside and outside HR. Mix in what's happening in people analytics today. Give them the technology to connect. Hit record. Pour their discussions into a beaker. Mix thoroughly. And voila, you get the HR Data Labs podcast, where we explore the impact of data and analytics to your business. We may get passionate and even irreverent, but count on each episode challenging and enhancing your understanding of the way people data can be used to solve real-world problems. Now, here's your host, David Turetsky.
Hello and welcome to the HR Data Labs podcast. I'm your host, David Turetsky, alongside my friend and trusted co-host, Dwight Brown from Salary.com. Hey, Dwight, how are you?
I'm good, David. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. And you know why I'm doing awesome?
Why is that?
Because today we get to spend some time with my friend and brilliant human being, Jason Averbook. Jason just joined Mercer not too long ago. Jason, you're going to have to tell us a story, but everybody loves Jason. Tell us a story about how you got to Mercer.
Wow. So first of all, thanks for the kind words, and excited to be here as always. I think I make a yearly appearance, even though I'd like to make a more frequent appearance, but yearly, I guess we'll have to do.
Yes.
I've had a long journey in the HR and HR technology space and the digital space. And, you know, one of the things that I did about 20 years ago was decided that I wanted to be out of the product side of the business and into the services side of the business and really working with organizations to help them see outcomes. I guess I'm more of an instant gratification person than what I was able to see on the product side. And because of that, I've really enjoyed the services side. And as part of enjoying services, have had the opportunity to grow three different consulting organizations now, and basically really wanted to work outside the United States. So we worked with so many multinationals in the organizations that I started that basically said, you know, you guys are great, but you really can't help us outside the United States. And it got to the point from a satisfaction standpoint where I was like, we need to grow and we need to scale. So, you know, at this part of LeapGen's history, what we did last year was started to say, hey, who's a good partner that has a great platform for us to scale on? And that's really what brought us to Mercer. So was really, really excited to join forces with Mercer. We did that in March of last year. So we're 9 months in, long enough to have a baby. And we've had that baby. And now in my role of leading HR transformation globally here at Mercer, you know, we work with over 5,000 clients in driving the change that we're going to talk about throughout the rest of the podcast here.
That's awesome. And for those of you who have heard Jason before, you know he's a brilliant speaker, you know he's a great thought leader. But what you may not know about Jason is one fun thing that Jason's going to tell us right now. What's one fun thing that no one knows about Jason Averbook?
You know, and it's going to tie back to a lot of what we're talking about today. Maybe people know this about me if they follow me on LinkedIn, but I'm a lifelong learner. Like, I have to keep learning. The minute I stop learning, I will die. I will never retire. So for me, some people may not call that fun, but the fun it's not just learning about HR. It's not just learning about digital. It's not just learning about technology. It's learning about life. And, you know, I'd say now with two boys who, you know, are 19 and 16, wow. I learn from them constantly. People ask why I do all these podcasts. Every time I do a podcast, I learn. So I think that's the one fun thing I'm going to throw out. And I hope that most people think that learning is fun.
And it gives them an opportunity to develop their careers as well and develop themselves. And so I agree with you. I don't think I'll ever stop learning, and I hope I don't, but it's this wonderful thing. Great. Great feedback. So now let's talk about our topic for today. And if you followed our podcast, you know that when we meet with people at the HR technology conferences, typically we're trying to get their opinion about where things have gone in the past year and where things are going in the future. And in the context of the last HR technology conference, we didn't get a chance to catch up with Jason. So we wanted to try and give you all his perspective on what transpired in 23, where it's going in 24, which we're living in today, and where it will be going for 25. So let's start out. So Jason, the first question is, there was a lot of stuff that happened in 23. Can you summarize and tell us what were the most surprising things that you found from 23 that really impacted human resources?
Hi, I'm Carmen Hudson. I'm the host of the Recruiting Book Club, and we're starting our second season. I'm so excited to bring to you another set of guests of recruiters who have written books. We are excited to have some very special guests this season. We've got Shally, we've got Craig Fisher, James Ellis, and quite a few other people that we're going to bring on board to tell us about what they wrote, why they wrote it, and maybe we'll veer off into a conversation about recruiting on all types of topics and subjects that happen in our industry. So I hope you can join us. I'm excited.
Sure, bucket that into three categories. The first thing I think that happened in 2023 that none of us should really turn our head away from is the world continued to get smaller. We dealt with, and some of us forget this because time just fleets by and all of a sudden you like on to the next thing.
Right.
But we dealt with two massive geopolitical wars, both in Russia and Ukraine, as well as in Israel. Those are massive things that basically, why does that affect HR? Because every HR organization, for the most part, has employees that were affected by those events. And when I say affected by those events, just like COVID left us in a period of uncertainty, 2023 left us in a period of uncertainty as we entered 2024 based on some of those geopolitical events. So that's the first thing. It's a small world. And in a global economy, which we all live in today, and an HR function, which deals with people, we're all together. We're all tied as one.
Right.
The second thing that I think that's fascinating about 2023 that we need to learn from a pattern standpoint is that we saw the outside world of technology do and advance more than we saw inside enterprises. So that's not just AI. That's everything from new technology when it comes to how do we connect, to new high-speed connectivity, to thinking about the fact that it's now acceptable. COVID accelerated this to everyone turns on Zoom all the time or turns on their camera all the time. And the other component I'm going to add to that is the hybrid work model as well that people got 2023 confused about. Do we go back to work? Do we stay home? Do we go back to work? Do we stay home? So that whole concept of the human outside of work, yet I'm a human inside of work, and how does that play, really played itself out in 2023. And then the third thing that happened at the end of 2023 was the start of what I'm going to call the 2024 printing press moment for HR, which is the generative changing AI component that came into play, that by the time we got to HR tech, magically, everyone had it all over their booths that we're a Gen AI company. Yet none of the people at the conference knew what that meant.
And we're confused by all the differing messages that every single vendor were throwing at them constantly.
Right.
And I mean, and making AI seem to be this new age thing, which as someone who built one of the industry's DOS applications, DOS, DOS, that doesn't stand for do's and don'ts, it's DOS. We had AI back then. So this is not new stuff. There's a new format that's in front of us of AI, but it's not new stuff. So if I take the geopolitical issues combined with the concept of where am I going to work, how am I going to work, and how am I going to get connected, combined with this new technology that people got confused, scared, excited by all at the same time, that was 2023.
Wow. That's very concise, few minutes, and nailed it. The one thing I'd go back to with the geopolitical crisis is that if you weren't personally affected by your in-laws or by your, a cousin or whomever was in either Israel or the West Bank or Gaza or in Ukraine or Russia, if you weren't affected personally by, your family being there, somebody in your team who is either from there or who has family there who is personally affected by it. And it caused that, whether it's friction or it caused the momentary sadness or continual sadness. So there's a mental health aspect of this that's still playing out today in the workplace, of people in that mindset of, holy crap, my family's in danger or my friends are in danger.
Yep.
Yeah, and even if it's not, I mean, yeah, or it's a customer.
Exactly.
Right.
It's a customer with a family member there. And, and it's not just that. I mean, there are lines of business, for example, within our parent company, Marsh McLellan, that pulled out of Russia. Like, we broke ties with Russia. So, I mean, all of that happened in 2023, which was a huge drain and a huge burden, I'd say, to a lot of HR functions.
Yeah, and I think the same goes for each of the three pieces that you listed too. I mean, part of the reason that AI has sort of risen up again, like you said, it's been around for a long time, but now people are starting to be affected by AI with the world conflict. People, if you weren't personally affected, there's been all kinds of fallout from that kind of thing. And so in one way or another, everybody's been personally affected, and it's definitely going to drive what happens going into 24, 25.
So one of the things that's really interesting about the third one, we'll go back to AI.
Sure.
David Turetsky and myself, like, we've been singing the song, "Data's too sexy for your love" forever.
Yeah.
Data's too sexy for your love, too sexy for your do. And,
Oh my God, and be a clip of that. I see it right now, Jason.
Yeah, exactly. And people have thought we were freaking crazy. And one of the things that AI has finally exposed is the fact that David and I weren't crazy. What we said about getting your data right, having foundational data solid, having both structured and unstructured data in a way that actually could be consumed, not by a little tiny straw, which was an interface or an integration, but by a huge land grab called a large language model in today's world, that we've exposed the fact that HR organizations that don't have good data can't use these tools. And to me, that's a headline. That is a headline of December 31st, 2023, that takes us into 2024.
So do you think organizations realize that point that you just made?
Do they, or did they?
Well, both. I mean, did they, and are we making progress? Where do they?
So they didn't understand for the longest time why having a data repository, why having data in one place, why having good data, why not having 19 formats of the same data wasn't a good idea, et cetera, et cetera. They did not understand that. And now what they're finding is that, wow. And I'd say they're just like, literally, light bulbs are on dim mode. They're just starting to realize that, wow, if we're going to use some of these tools, A, we better know where our data is. B, we better make sure our data is right. And C, we better have a way to make sure that people understand that the fact that this data is now being presented to them in a way that is very consumable, that they have some idea around what they do with that data as it's presented to them. And literally, I mean, I hate to say this, David and I mean, we've been talking about this for 2 decades.
Right.
And I'm going to be very blunt. I didn't know why I was talking about it. David probably did. I just knew that someday, all of this data arbitrage that was going on was going to come crashing down on us if we didn't actually get it right. And now we're seeing that.
And Jason, I love your analogies, but I like to think of data as cockroaches, and that a lot of the bad data are the worst cockroaches. They're the biggest ones with the gigantic wings that come flying at you. People don't uncover those cockroaches until they start to use them in ways that they were never intended. So when we built things like the analytics platform, we uncovered really horrible data sets and really horrible hierarchies and structures that were only meant to satisfy the finance need not to satisfy the need of being able to report on or analyze the data. So when these new technologies and techniques come up and they start exposing these cockroaches that come out of nowhere, and they go, holy crap, how do I put them back or how do I get rid of them? The answer is you need to go either way back in time or ignore what was done, start building better processes around your data capture today and fix what's there so that the expectation that you have of the new process or of the new data for the whatever purpose you're driving it towards will actually make sense given what you're trying to accomplish. And that's what I think is the biggest problem right now with what they want to accomplish, which is what you're talking about with corporate AI in the context of HR. The data that's there sucks so bad that trying to drive models or at least an interpretation of the understanding of the data that's there is going to uncover so much crap that people are going to be like, I can't use this stuff. This doesn't work for me. And then give it up when it could be an advantage.
You know, David, you used the word sucks. And I think what's really interesting, not about the word sucks, but about your statement, is that we've been selfish. You know, there's this concept within sports about playing bully ball. And the definition of bully ball is basically, I'm not going to pass the ball. I'm not going to really worry who else is on the court. This is in basketball specifically. And guess what I'm going to do? I'm just going to drive to the hoop and try to score. And I think that if I take that same concept and apply it to silos within HR, we've been playing bully ball.
Right.
So I would say that the comp people would say our data doesn't suck. I'd say the benefits people would say our data doesn't suck. It's self-serving. It serves me. And through manual heroics, it allows me to get stuff done. But now all of a sudden, when I'm playing a game, which is a team sport, and I have a bunch of spectators who are not watching one player, they're watching the whole team win or lose. All of a sudden, I'm realizing that bully ball doesn't work. And, so I think we have to have a new definition of sucks, which is, hey, it might not suck for me as a function, but the way that I've been doing it sucks as an enterprise. And that makes us responsible for rethinking how we not just consume data, but how we produce data, how we gather data, and what the end result is of how that data is going to be used.
But even in the context of that data not sucking for others, in let's just say the job table is one tool that's being used by, let's say, compensation to do promotion activities, career frameworks, job matching for salary surveys and whatnot. So it does serve, to your point, it serves the purpose of comp. But when workforce planning is using it, and they have a different definition because they're looking at today, tomorrow, and the longer term, and they have needs about the job table that aren't being satisfied there, the current systems don't technically help them with that. And so they have to go, to your point before, they have to create other data lakes, other Excel spreadsheets, other Access databases that capture this information. And so it takes it even out of the realm of AI. It takes it out of the realm of data sources that are available to be used. And so we're creating those even greater silos. And there is no, because Dwight is an expert in data governance, there is no data governor.
Mm-hmm.
There's no one person who works in an organization who sees the forest for the trees and says, I think instead of trying to drive 3 different databases, let's use this one definition and let's use it in different ways or extend the model in other ways.
And there may be data governors, but it's only at the individual silo level. There is no central data governor, to your point.
Can I just say one thing before I respond without my snarky humor? I have never been on a podcast where I talked about job tables. I mean, talk about we're going deep and geeky. Like, we're talking job tables, baby.
Oh, we love talking job tables.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we can talk job tables all day long. It's kind of funny. By the time people listen to this podcast, I'll have given a presentation I'm doing next week in Davos. And the last thing I'm going to bring up to the group of people in Davos is job tables. But I love it.
Give a shout out to the HR Data Labs podcast for that.
Let's go. But, the thing that I think that's just so interesting about that is that what you just brought up, the fact that you went to that level, the fact that you stooped that low to the job table, that just reinforces where we have to start. because that's the foundational element of what we're doing. That's the foundation to everything that we're talking about here. And one of my biggest fears in 2024 is that people are buying this Gen AI stuff as the shiny object syndrome and basically saying, guess what? This is going to band-aid all of that sucky data and all of that bad job table stuff because we're just going to put this layer on top of it.
Right.
And it's not going to do that. Right. And we're seeing more than ever, hey, guess what? I've got a co-pilot. And the co-pilot can actually help you understand this data. But once again, it's helping you understand bad data. And guess who we're going to blame? Gen AI. So in what I said earlier about a printing press moment, I truly think generative AI has the opportunity and potential, and I've said this before, to be a printing press moment for HR, for knowledge work, and for business. And I only say potential because it's going to require data governance, data fitness, data ethics that we are not good at today.
And does the AI help us get there?
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking subscribe. This podcast is made possible by Salary.com. Now, back to the show.
Why don't we take that into 2024? Is that where 2024 begins? Is that where we really need to rely on the artificial intelligence to help us fill gaps that we as humans kind of suck at, which is being able to do all those things you just mentioned?
So generative AI and AI is going to help us understand where our problems are. So it actually gives us the opportunity to see that I've got bad data.
Right.
It actually gives us the opportunity to converse with intent, very intentional the way I said that, converse with intent with my data to help me understand how I could fix the data.
Right.
But it's not going to automatically fix the data. If I have a David Turetsky at a job code 001 and a Dwight Brown at job code 001A, and all of a sudden I'm like, hey, which one should it be, 001 or 001A? Gen AI is not going to fix that for me and tell me all of the downstream implications of salaries, et cetera, that go back to whether I'm using the A at the end. I'm getting a little geeky there, sorry. But it's going to help identify that I've got a problem. But as far as solving it, and it could give me ideas, but it's still going to require, which is a huge concept, this concept of human in the loop, to say, based on what Gen AI has uncovered, now what do I do with it?
We think it's going to help us overcome data laziness. That's what that is data laziness, that we've got the bad data. We don't want to spend the effort to fix it. And so, we're looking for that magic wand to help make it go away. And I agree with you that going into 2024, everybody's going to expect that it will do what we have been hoping for years and years and years. And it's just not going to happen. And like you said, they're going to blame it on generative AI or AI, generative AI.
But I think, Dwight, to your point, what it's going to do, it's going to force new cottage industries where people are going to be SWAT teams that get brought in, whether it's consultants like Jason or us, to say, hey, let's look at your data set and let's diagnose where we see the problems in your job table, in your architecture, in your hierarchies, things like that, that will prevent you from being able to utilize some of the really cool functions that are coming out in the HCM world over the next year.
One of the reasons I think people are data lazy is because they don't find the value in not being data lazy.
Yeah, good point.
Does that make sense? Like, I just don't. It doesn't mean enough to me. The fact that it's easier to set up a 001A than it is to try to figure out the answer. But now, when all of a sudden I realize that by having visibility to bad data, what it's doing, and the conversations that it's causing, and the turmoil that it's causing, it's going to force me not to be data lazy. Okay, is that data fitness is going to become much more important.
But Jason, those are skills that people, especially in HRIT, do not have. Understanding what they have on their plate right now, the maintenance of data tables, which should be their forte, which should be what they focus on, they've been keeping the lights on, especially through COVID. And now that it's over, do you think that there's an impetus to go back and make sure that all the data that's there is still accurate and is still representative of the organization as it stands?
Oh my gosh. I mean, do I think? I know. I mean, if I said, the advice I give clients every day is don't jump into chatbots, because 99% of your chatbot is going to give you bad data. And guess what? The minute you do that, what are people going to say? I hate the chatbot because it's either creepy, it's crappy, or it's clunky.
Right.
So I would focus on, as that technology continues to evolve, I would spend the first part, if nothing else, of 2024 on data cleanup exercises, data optimization exercises, data fitness and data governance exercises. And by the way, you could use generative AI along the way in small little pilots to see if it's working and how the data cleanup's going and the optimization's going, and looking for areas for optimization. But as far as full-scale deployment of Gen AI, don't do it until you fix that data foundation.
And that's why I'm saying I think there are cottage industries there to be able to help companies get there, where you can hire outside resources to be able to put your data into better fitness in order to be able to utilize some of these much cooler things that are coming out.
And and unfortunately, David, I think we're going to go from cottage industry to the industry. Data is the spine of what makes all this stuff work. And it's going to become table stakes. And your comment about HRIT people not doing this, or not knowing how to do it, or not knowing why to do it, those days of those days are over. That's not acceptable anymore.
And so to all our HRIT folks out there, I love you. And Jason and I are hoping that we can help you gather skills in order to be able to get your data back on track.
Yeah, and one of the things. So, David, I'm just going to play with you for a second. Data back on track.
Yeah.
Well, let's start with what does that mean? Data back on track.
So for me, the way data is structured today doesn't represent the organization, nor does it represent the needs of the organization. It's meant to satisfy whether payroll, benefits, compensation, whatever. To your point before, it's solving individual problems and not looking at the whole health of the organization, nor the purpose of the use of the data. Getting data back on track means leveraging the data to solve business problems and being able to use the HRIT to help you do that. And it's not just payroll, it's not just benefits, it's not just comp, and it's not just workforce planning. It's giving us the things that we need from this system, from the set of systems, to be able to satisfy a greater need.
I would also add to that getting data back on track also means having the processes to keep it on track. Because I think that's part of the issue that we have too. We there have been efforts to do some of the cleanup along the way, and whether it be the structure or whether it just be the data itself, but we don't have processes to keep it that way, so we keep going back. So I think David's point is spot on, and in addition to that, we got to figure out how to keep it that way going forward.
And Dwight and David, I think the thing that generative AI is going to do is basically, I've been able to have all of this data within my walls, but you know what? How it was organized and what the drawers looked like, and if the floors were a mess and things like that, guess what? I just put up walls in front of it so no one saw it.
Mm-hmm.
What generative AI does is it changes those walls into windows.
Right.
So now everyone sees it. Everyone sees where there's issues.
Yeah.
And, if I'm not focused on it, it's going to just continue to be an ongoing cockroach, Mr. Turetsky.
So the walls break down and all the cockroaches come out. That's what you're saying.
Exactly.
Hey, are you listening to this and thinking to yourself, man, I wish I could talk to David about this? Well, you're in luck. We have a special offer for listeners of the HR Data Labs podcast. A free half-hour call with me about any of the topics we cover on the podcast or whatever is on your mind. Go to salary.com/HRDL consulting. to schedule your free 30-minute call today. Jason, let's pivot to 2025. Where does this lead us to in next year's conversation? What will next year look like if this is what we're going to face this year?
I know that we do three types of work. We do hands work, we do heads work, and we do hearts work in HR. Hands work, heads work, and hearts work. Now, some people call that transactional relationship and expertise. I call it hands, heads, and hearts.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to happen throughout 2024 and as we move into 2025 is we are going to do a lot less hands work and a lot more heads work and a lot more hearts work. I guarantee that. Like, to me, this is not even up for debate. Now, the pace in which I get there is going to depend on data, the cleanliness of the data, my foundation. I don't actually think it depends on whether I'm in the cloud, whether I'm using the latest or greatest HCM system or things like that. It's going to depend on my data architecture, my ability to take my data, put it into these models that allow me to be conversational and intent-based, and to think about how do I actually present that in an experience that's usable to a group of humans who are trying to get stuff done. And I really think that this concept that we've been talking about forever about how do we change HR from being so transactional to being so strategic, now, for the first time ever, and I apologize if I'm offending anyone, for the first time ever, we actually have technology that allows me to do that. I don't believe self-service ever did. Okay. I actually think we have the first technology ever that speaks the language of a human instead of speaking the language of HR,
right,
that allows me to do that. But it's going to take a massive amount of unlearning. The unlearning effort of 2024 to prepare for 2025 is more than the technology effort. It's more than the data effort. It means I have to reimagine how I work, how I think, why I do things, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, so that I can take advantage of this. So, David and Dwight, I talk a lot about we put way too much weight on the technology. I'm watching this every second of late 23 and into 24 where, do you see that new Copilot? Hey, did you see that new GPT store? There's a GPT store to do coaching and career advice.
Right.
Awesome. But if I don't have good data, if I don't have good policy, if I don't have good stuff for that tool to use, it's worthless. So I just think that we're at this seminal moment, which is either going to turn the function forever into a function that truly is data-driven and strategic, or we might be at the moment where if I don't do it, the function is replaced. And I don't want to be that grandiose, but HR is not going to be the last one saying, guess what? You still need to call me if you have a problem. Or guess what? If you need a report, you still need to call me. Yeah, you'll be replaced.
Do you need me to fax you something?
It's not going to, it won't happen.
Right.
You'll get replaced.
Yeah.
I know. I agree. Well, I think what we're going to do is leave it there, because what I want to do, Jason, is I want to come back to this in 2026 and we're going to say, holy crap, look at what Jason said. It was so spot on. He nailed it.
And if I'm not here in 26, that means that we all get a big fat ass.
I think if you're not here in 26, we're all going to be sad. And we're all going to say, hey, let's get Jason on our other podcast, which is talking about sports. And
it's going to be talking about mental health and what happens when we don't do a good job of unlearning.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea either.
It's true.
We've actually had people talking about mental health before as well. So,
you guys, mental health. David, I don't shut up, and that's why that moment of silence was the fun fact. Mental health is one of the things that's really, really important about this particular topic. And the reason it's so particular is I'm going to tie it back to closing off with what the LEAP in LeapGen stood for. It actually stood for something. Not everyone knows this story. It stood for love, energy, audacity, and proof. How do you love what you do, which generates energy to do the audacious and then to prove that value? And I truly believe that for those organizations that do make this transformation in 24 into 25 and are successful, it is going to require a lot of love to generate energy to do the audacious. Because to change one of the oldest professions in the world is not easy. And that's what we are in. And that's the moment that we have in front of us. So find the energy. Podcasts like this do a tremendous job of hopefully giving you that energy. Thank you, David and Dwight, for putting it on.
Thank you.
And thank you for having me on.
Jason, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for being here. We love having you on because we love learning from every moment that you spend with us. Dwight, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us, Jason. This has been an awesome conversation.
Thanks, Dwight. And David, someday I hope to have the same type of a radio voice that's so soothing and calm that you do.
Thank you, Jason. We'll work on that together. How about that?
It's a deal.
Take care, everybody. Stay safe. And we'll talk to you at our next episode.
That was the HR Data Labs podcast. If you liked the episode, please subscribe. And if you know anyone that might like to hear it, please send it their way. Thank you for joining us this week, and stay tuned for our next episode. Stay safe.